guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Yvonne from Ginger Chick Rehab. On my channel, along with my husband Chris, we love to do thrift store flips. We do DIYs, trash to treasures. We take unwanted, unloved, outdated, thrifted items and give them new life. So in today's video, I am sharing some side tables that I had thrifted. One I had shared with a thrift haul with a Thrift With Me, and I just absolutely fell in love with the wood grain on it, though it was stained, so you'll have to stay tuned to see if it can be salvaged or not. And then the other is a pair of side tables that were small in size. They were just a MDF board, you see my kitty cat, an MDF board, and they just needed to stand out. They just were one of those pieces that just everybody would probably pass over because there was no ooh and ah factor. I'm not sure if you look at these two thrifted side tables or you wouldn't have looked at them at all, but when I see a matching pair, I just snag them right up. I know that they don't look like they're anything special, and maybe you think the price is too much at them for the $509, but I absolutely love one, like I said, a matching pair, and they do have details. Though they're just a simple side table, I absolutely love matching pairs. If you already follow my channel, you saw this side table in one of my Thrift With Me's videos. I just absolutely love that graining of that wood. $309 price tag, yes please, but I really was confused in the store what the as is was. I thought maybe it was this staining on the top, but I wasn't really sure. So I know you probably think, oh, she's just going to paint over that, but there's something about that graining. If we can get that sanded off and that stained off the top, I would love to be able to keep that wood. I think it just is absolutely gorgeous. As you see, Chris is just using some super clean. This is a wonderful degreaser. I have it linked in not only to their website, but in my Amazon store also. Oh my gosh, I love it just as much as the crud cutter. Does anybody else out there in YouTube world have a pet peeve of people spraying or painting over tags? I just can't do it. Let's see what this orbital sander and a 220 sandpaper will do. I don't really want them to have to go a higher grit to try to get that staining off. I don't want it to mar up or raise that wood any. I want it just to stay nice and smooth. So he's just going to go gingerly over this and see if he can get some of that staining to remove. And then, not to take away the detail on the side, you're going to need to hand sand that side. You don't want to take that orbital sander on the side of detail because it will take the wood down and flatten all that detail right out. So there was nothing wrong with the top of these tables. He just lightly sanded them. So maybe this was what the as is was. It was glued back together very unevenly, so he just had filled it in with some water putty just to get where it was not an even texture and sanded it smooth. And so to even out that texture of the water putty and the wood, he's just spraying it with some shellac. So since I didn't have a very big surface area to paint, I thought I would just paint these legs up. I wanted to paint these legs white. I love that, just that detail on the top part of these legs, that little kick out at the knee. Oh my gosh, I just absolutely love it. But for the bottom of this piece, I'm not going to worry about doing any stain, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint this also with the Waverly, just the Waverly chalk paint in white. So can I tell you that I quickly realized, I think I should go get one of my Lazy Susan turntables so I can spin this piece while I am painting it. So usually, yes, I do a tape off, but then there was these areas on the side that I thought, you know what? Yes, I could maybe try to have a steady hand, but I'm just going to get some masking tape out. I buy it at the dollar store, just get this taped off so I don't touch that side. Okay, so now that I took the break from making sure that I got everything taped off, I really wanted to have the wood grain going down that bottom side too. I wanted that to be a detail that you saw, but I just wanted to cover up that bottom with this white paint. And I'm liking the Waverly chalk paint. I know you can make your own chalk paint. I know there's 101 different chalk paints, but this is just something that I can get off the shelf at my local Walmart. So if you're enjoying this type of video and you are not already part of my YouTube family, please hit that subscription button so we know that we should still keep making these types of videos. So I wasn't really sure. I kind of felt like this piece was going to bleed, where you see where it's making the white paint a yellowish brown color. And in a roundabout way, I was hoping that the chalk paint would take care of that, but I don't think it matters unless I primed it maybe. But in the process, after it's yellowed, I'm just going to be spraying a couple coats of this shellac on it. That will seal in that yellow. And it's funny because once you start painting it or spraying it with the shellac, it really brings out the yellowing that's going to be happening. So that I definitely let this dry. It doesn't take long to dry, 10-15 minutes in between coats. And then you can proceed to painting. So now for the two matching side tables, I'm just taking them into the spray room and spraying them with an undercoat of the black onyx and flat, the ready-to-use paint right off the shelf from Walmart. Now for me, I always feel that just painting that MDF board, that raw that's underneath of these pieces, just takes them up a notch. Just by putting a layer of paint has already changed what this table looks like, what the value of this table looks like. It is a nice sturdy table, but that bottom part looks a little cheesy to me. It's just a personal preference, but I am very happy to cover that up to make it look like a higher end piece. So let me just show you that, yes, that shellac, I am not a chemist. It is a wonderful product. You can definitely tell how bad that white paint was not going to stay. It was going to be stained, and how wonderful this shellac works to seal that in. So then the pair of side tables got flipped over and the tops now have gotten painted. This is just a personal preference of painting upside down first. So do you all get excited when it comes to distressing? I am so impatient for paint to dry, I can't even tell you, but I am so excited to start getting the sharp edges of the side table distressed. I can't wait to see that detail, all that hidden detail that just one color and a solid wood color just doesn't show. But when you go in and you paint these and you distress all those sharp edges and all that detail, I'll never tire of it. It's just, it oohs and ahs me every time. So my vision for these side tables is they're not a generous size. They are just a nice accent little table. So the black does nothing for them. So I'm going to be spray painting them with the Kills Paint and Primer, and I'm going to make them stand out above a crowd and paint them white. That is definitely one of the questions I get asked a lot. How do I know I know that I only paint in black and white, but how do I know what I'm going to paint black and white? And I just tell you that the vision for these pieces, while we're working on them, they tell us. I know that sounds weird, but just that black wasn't going to do anything for this piece. There was nothing that was going to pop with this piece with black, but painting it in white, and I'm going to be doing some accent on the top of this table to make it stand out. So you guys do know that if you are new to my channel, this is a team thing. This is something that me and my husband do together. This is a side job for the both of us. We both enjoy flipping thrifted items. It is so relaxing, especially since what's going on in the world. I can tell you it is so nice to have something to do together that we enjoy. And so Chris is going in and sanding the piece and getting all those details to pop out. Yep, there are details in this little side table. And even though that top was nice and smooth painted from the sprayer, he's still going over with a 400-300 grit sandpaper and making sure that it is smooth. So sometimes as a husband and wife team, I don't always explain, or the husband doesn't always understand what my vision or his vision for an item is. So Chris did what he always does, and he seals the paint in with the Varathane finishing wax on a white piece. But unfortunately, I wanted to put a stencil on the top of this piece. But that's not a problem. There's no worries, either that I didn't tell him, or, it's a normal husband and wife thing. He didn't hear me, but I'm not worried. I can resolve this problem. So then he is going in on this side table where I distressed it and just sealing that chalk paint in with some Varathane wax also. So now I just went to my Cricut. I found this simple design right off their store, and I am going to be making an individual stencil for each one of those white side tables. The nice thing about it is when I do an individual stencil like this, every stencil I make and I create, it can be an individual. So I know you can buy mass-produced ones, but for me, with my repeat buyers, I like to have a little something different every time they come into the booth, and that little side table needs to stand out in a crowd. It was just kind of hidden as a cute pair of side tables and an accent table, but it needs something a little bit more. Some stencil on the top of that side table will just make it pop. And when I'm looking for a stencil like this, I'm trying to look at something that doesn't have a ton of pieces and parts, because some of these tiles, some of these medallions can get a lot of weeding to do. So what I did to prep the top of this table to take that wax off, I just used rubbing alcohol. So what that's doing is that is a chemical that is going to remove that wax. It is fine. It's painted with Kills, so it just takes that right off. It does make it sticky, so you do need to let that sticky dry and then sand it off. And so now I can now proceed. If I try to put this stencil over the Waverly or the waxing, it would not adhere. It would not be a permanent bond. So I know that I talked over when I was designing this stencil in my Cricut studio, but what I was doing is this is a round object. So the stencil itself from the Cricut store was not completely a square. Even though it's round, it was not, the sides were, so I had made this to 1111 so I could cut it out on a 12 by 12 mat, and I wanted it to completely be the same around type of circle. So this is the fun and probably the little time consuming next to the weeding part, is making sure that you are centered. And then for my stencils, I just like to use permanent vinyl. I use that Oracle 651 that I get off Amazon. I find that this works the best for me. And then I like to use Duck brand contact paper that is generally used. And I actually have found out that if I take a new piece of that contact paper and take it into the workshop and put it on one of the work table that is probably got sawdust on it, wow, does that make it the right stickiness to be able to use. And so now, as you see, I'm just applying that stencil, and now I'm just making sure that it's all the pieces and parts are smoothed out, that I don't have any bleed under. So can I tell you how happy I was that a viewer many videos ago told me about this trick where when you're doing a stencil to keep crisp lines, how you paint. Your first paint color is what the item is already painted. So I'm going in with my Kills paint and primer, and that's what I'm doing. It helps seal those edges in and really gives you some awesomely crisp lines. So if you're a regular viewer of my channel, I don't know if you remember me doing that beaded mirror, but this is the same technique I'm going to be using on this stencil. So now that I've got the white for the crisp lines, I'm going in with some chalk paint in the ink. Why not? I have all this chalk paint I bought to do that project, and I have a lot of it left. So I'm just going in with the makeup sponge from the Dollar Tree and a little bit of that black ink on there and covering up the stencil first. This is going to be its first color. I'm going to be laying multiple colors on this to achieve the finished look. So now I'm going in with some Waverly chalk paint and truffle. So what I'm trying to achieve here is maybe like it's a wood grain, a wood inset on these tables. Like I said, these are nice tables. They're nice sturdy tables, but they need to be giving something to make them pop. The white is nice, the details are almost there, but it just needs a little bit of something to get that person walking into my booth to ooh and ah over them. And I'm hoping that this stencil will do the job. So yep, I'm going in with one more layer, and I'm going in with the Waverly Antiquing Wax. Like I said, I'm hoping that this kind of makes it wood looking. I probably could have achieved the same look with a brown, but like I said, I already had all this paint, so why not use it? Why not find some items that I've thrifted to be able to use this paint on? And if you noticed, I switched over to a piece of drop cloth to apply this Waverly wax. The wax is a different texture than paint, so it takes a little bit longer for a wax to dry. So that's why I decided that I didn't want to be smushing it, having it on that sponge. I just thought I would use a piece of this drop cloth. This is the way I'm used to applying it anyway, and so I really have it as a tight package underneath in the palm of my hand getting this applied. So now I need to go in and hand sand this while those other two pieces are drying and curing. I needed to go in on the sides of this anyway and get those sanded because you don't want to touch that with an orbital sander because it would flatten it out. And then if any of that shellac spray the mist had gone over this wood area, that's going to prevent me moving on to my next process. I need to get that off also. So when I showed this in my Thrift With Me, my thrift haul, I was worried about removing those stains, and I had quite a few comments said you can bleach wood. So I went to the interweb, I looked up how to bleach wood, and really, I'm like, really? It's just bleach, just Clorox bleach. It doesn't have a lot of heavy staining on it, and I'm not trying to strip the color out. I'm just trying to make sure that any of that staining that was left from whatever the spill was is off. So it said on a lot of my research, there's a few different ways that you can bleach, but for this simple little project, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to see if regular old Clorox works. So I'm just going in with a piece of drop cloth and just straight Clorox bleach, and then just letting it sit on a little bit. I can really tell that it's grabbing some of that stain off, and I don't know if you can see, but I can really see that it is actually doing something. Now I'm just going in with a clean piece of drop cloth, and I am just trying to rinse it, trying to get any of that excess bleach off. So I did this multiple times. I know that every time I do it, my rag is probably going to have a little bit of color. Bleach is kind of slimy, so you can almost, even through the gloves, feel when you have it off. Now, the one thing you know about wood, if you wet wood, it is going to expand it. It's not going to be smooth. So what I'm doing now is going over with some 220 sandpaper and making sure that it is nice and smooth. So I don't really want to darken up. I do not want to blend in the graining of this wood. So I am doing a Waverly wax, but where I have watered it down. So I am excited to see what it's going to do. And to me, I feel like this wood is very red, but I'm not going to worry about that. For me, As a hairdresser, I know about toning. So this Waverly wax should be able to, this antiquing wax, this brown wax should be able to tone that red down. So now that my back is killing me, I can finally lift this table up onto the work table so I can get the sides and that bottom portion of that table. Oh, there's always something to be working on. So I'm going to call it a toner. Why that Waverly wax is a toning the orange, that red out of that piece. And now this is cured. This is dry. I am using the assistance of the heat of the blow dryer to release this permanent vinyl off the top of this table. Yes, some people like to remove their vinyl when their product is wet. I feel like I'm a little bit on the clumsy side and I don't want to actually smear it or get it onto a part that I don't want any paint on. So this is just what works for me. You all do what works for you. But I am already telling you how much I love the crisp lines of this stencil. So when you go back in with a needle or your weeding tool, when you're trying to get the pieces and parts, the one thing that you don't want to do is you're not digging a hole. You're just trying to grab onto that little piece of vinyl and lift it off. You don't want to mar up the paint that's underneath there by hitting it with your pin. Oh, can I tell you how much I'm in love with this stencil? This is not a plain against the wall side table anymore. And now I just need to seal that in. I am going to use a few coats of this polyacrylic to seal all that in. And yes, look at that. The toner did what the toner was supposed to do. It took that red, that orange out. I don't know if any of y'all color your hair at home, but yes, you have to let it do its magic. And I absolutely love what this antiquing wax even watered down what it did. And then yes, just like the other side tables, I'm going to be giving it 3 good coats of that polyacrylic to be a protective top coat. And I'm not going to sand. The final coat is where I'm going to sand. I wanted to fill in all those holes anywhere the wood grain is raised, and especially on the stencil where that stencil is kind of raised. I wanted to make sure that I had enough coats to make it a flat surface, that there was no bumps. So yes, maybe I'm a little bit overprotective of my items, all that hard work, but yep, I am giving it one more, all 3 of these side tables, a finishing coat of the Varathane finishing wax. Okay guys, what do you think? What do my regular viewers think? Did you think I was going to paint this side table all white? But I just couldn't. That grain, just that detail on the top of that table, I could not cover up with paint. And I just absolutely loved how distressing those legs, how that just, it all pops, it all flows together. Just beautiful. And then no more hitting against the wall for these side tables. No more cluttering with a whole bunch of stuff because you're just covering up that white. You just want to be able to put a simple decor piece or simple cup of coffee while you're reading a book. They are nice and protected, and you do not want to hide that beautiful design on the top of these. I know this is not what you're all used to when it comes to the Ginger Chick paint job, but some items just cry to be different, and these 3 items did. Yet simple, little, round, smaller inside tables, they're just now beautiful accent pieces. So I thank you so much for watching today's video, and what did you think? Yep, I did not paint that complete. I painted a little bit of that side table, but were you surprised that I left the wood? I absolutely loved that. Just that wood was just absolutely gorgeous. And those side tables now, they stand out. They're not in the background. They have a reason to live on. They just have that beautiful tile work on the top of them. I just absolutely love it. So I hope that I have inspired you to look at anything laying around your house or when you're out thrifting in a new way. And if you are part of my YouTube family, thank you so much. You guys' kind, supportive words, your thumbs up, always commenting on my videos. I As you know, I love to comment back. I love to chat with you all. And if you're new to my channel and you like this kind of content, so just hit that subscription button and then along with a notification bell so you know when I've uploaded a new video.